Let's be real for a second. Your life, whether you even realize it, is kind of like a battlefield. I'm talking about the fight for that promotion at work, the battle to outsmart a competitor in business, or even just that daily struggle against your own bad habits. And how do we usually fight these battles? Well, we just push harder, right? We use brute force. And a lot of the time, we just end up exhausted and defeated. We think winning is all about being the most powerful. But what if there's a totally different way, a smarter way to win? What if I told you that the secret was figured out 2,500 years ago by a strategist named Sun Tzu? He taught that true victory, well, it doesn't come from your muscles, it comes from your mind. So this isn't just some ancient book about war. It's a super practical guide for turning your own mind into your greatest weapon, and for winning any battle, often without ever having to throw a single punch. So where do we even begin? Sun Tzu's first and probably most important rule is this: a skilled warrior wins first and then goes to war. A defeated warrior, they go to war first and then try to figure out how to win. You see what that means? The real battle isn't fought out on some field. It's won in your head, in a quiet room, maybe months before the conflict even starts. Think about an entrepreneur launching a new app. One person could just start coding, right? But the smart one plans everything out meticulously. The market research, who the competition is, the target audience, the budget. By the time they write that first line of code, they've already mapped out their entire victory. Now, what's really cool is that Sun Tzu actually gives us a checklist. Before you jump into any challenge, he says, you've got to assess these 5 things. First, the way. That's your purpose, your mission. It's the why that's fueling your fight. Then there's the weather. These are the conditions you just can't control, so you have to be adaptable. The terrain is the battlefield itself, and you need to know it better than anyone. The leader, well, that requires a good, honest look in the mirror to know your own strengths and weaknesses. And finally, the discipline. That's all about your systems, your preparation. It's the engine that makes your whole strategy run. You know, every single battle has a cost. It costs money, it costs time, but most of all, it costs energy. And Sun Tzu warns us that these long, drawn-out fights are always losing propositions, even if it looks like you're winning on paper. They just drain your resources and burn out your team. Imagine a student prepping for a huge exam by just studying 18 hours a day with no real strategy. At first, it feels like they're working hard, but pretty soon they're just completely fried. By the time the exam actually shows up, their energy is gone. They fought a long battle and lost before it even really began. So, the crucial point here is to focus on a quick, decisive victory. Not every hill is worth dying on, you know? And this isn't about being a coward, it's about being wise. It's about saving your energy for the fights that truly, truly matter. And the most skilled strategists know that the absolute best way to save your energy is to win without even fighting. Which brings us to the psychology of battle. Okay, this right here is the highest, most profound level of Sun Tzu's teachings. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. See, this isn't a game of force anymore. It's a game of psychology. It's about getting inside your opponent's head, dismantling their plans, and crushing their morale before a single shot is even fired. For example, there was this small company that knew it couldn't compete with a giant rival on price. So instead of getting into a price where they'd lose, they offered such ridiculously amazing customer service that the big company's customers started flocking to them. They won the war without ever fighting on their rival's terms. And that story brilliantly illustrates the 2 core elements of any good strategy. You engage your opponent with the direct. That's the obvious, expected move they see coming. But you win with the extraordinary, the surprising, totally unpredictable maneuver they never saw coming. It's like a chef in a big cooking competition. The direct move is making a delicious, classic dish everyone expects. But the extraordinary move? Adding that one, secret, unexpected ingredient that just elevates the whole thing to another level. You serve them the expected, but you win with the surprise. Now, this is probably Sun Tzu's most famous and most misunderstood quote. Deception here doesn't mean you should go around lying or being dishonest. No. It means being unpredictable. It's about controlling the narrative, making your opponent think they know exactly what you're going to do. I heard about one startup going up against a huge corporation that deliberately downplayed its own technology. The big giant relaxed, thinking they had nothing to worry about. Then boom, the startup launched with a completely revolutionary pricing model. Not better tech, that just turned the entire market upside down. The attack came from where it was least expected. Of course, a brilliant strategy is totally useless without an effective leader to execute it. Sun Tzu lays out 5 virtues every great leader needs. Wisdom, to make smart judgments. Integrity, so people trust you.
compassion, so you actually care for your people, courage, to act when it's time to act, and discipline, to keep everything in order. But here's the key. It's all about balance. Too much compassion without any discipline, that leads to chaos. Too much discipline without compassion, that just leads to resentment. A great leader has to embody all five to really be effective.
And all of these strategies, the preparation, the psychology, the leadership, they're all building towards the single most important lesson in the art of war. All these amazing methods for outwitting an enemy on the outside are ultimately about just one thing: mastering yourself. We hear this quote all the time, right? But we almost always focus on the second part, know your enemy, and we completely forget the first and most critical part. Before you can even begin to understand your opponent, you have to have a brutally honest assessment of your own strengths and your own weaknesses. Think of a brilliant writer who's incredibly creative, that's their strength, but is just hopelessly undisciplined with deadlines, that's their weakness. To ever succeed, they have to manage their own weakness first. Self-knowledge is the foundation of every single strategy. The truth is, your greatest opponent isn't some competitor or a rival out there. It's your own internal state. A hot-headed CEO might have a fantastic product, but if their anger is always demotivating the team, it leads to terrible decisions. Their company only really started to thrive after they learned to manage their own temper. Conquering yourself, that is the absolute prerequisite to conquering any external challenge.
So in the end, the art of war isn't really a war manual at all, is it? It's a life manual. It teaches you how to navigate all the conflicts in your life with wisdom and with skill, to become the kind of warrior who so rarely even needs to fight. And that is the truest victory of all. So the final question is one that only you can answer for yourself. Who is your most difficult battle against?